Yo, Kyoshi here. I'm doing this because I do want to make up for the last Code Vein stream. It didn't end so well. I noticed that I haven't done a proper introduction video. My apologies, as I'm not good with these sort of things. It's been what, 10 months since I debuted, and I never properly introduced myself. Better late than never. Anyway, my name's Akazora Kyoshi. I'm a shape-shifting dragon. Wait, careful what you say. You're still hiding from them. Right. I'm a confectionery salesman that sells gummies for a living. Anyway, let me tell you guys a bit more about how I ended up here. But I'll mostly focus on the gaming side of things. The earliest memories I have of gaming was when I was around 5 or so years old. Does anyone remember the Poly Station? It was this weird bootleg PlayStation which my grandma in the Philippines gifted me on my birthday. It was a funny little thing. I remember it having a compilation of 15 or so NES games in one. My favorites, of course, being Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt. The thing surprisingly came with a bootleg zapper, and y'all know I had to cheat by moving right up to the screen. Some other games I remember from the Poly Station days were Battle City and ER Kung Fu. I also loved playing those two games, and I recall spending hours on Battle City alone. ER Kung Fu was fairly difficult, suffice to say, and it was annoying as a kid, but I really only ever just spammed jump attacks and so on. A year later, I recall having my first ever proper gaming system, a Game Boy Advance. It was the Indigo one, and unfortunately I can't recall who gave it to me. It was a gift for Christmas, although I can't really seem to remember. Anyway, the games I own that I had on there were old ones since my dad owned an original Game Boy when he was in his 20s. He passed on those games to me, and one of them was a multi-game cartridge that had several unique games on it. I remember vividly playing that weird Looney Tunes game where you collect keys in a castle while being chased. I also remember Aladdin for it, which I played quite a bit, but the games I remember most that gives me the biggest nostalgia has to be Alleyway, Pitman, and Volley Fire. Alleyway I think is just Breakout, and Pitman was this really cute game where you could play as cat girls, believe it or not, beating up these prisoner-looking things. You have to push rocks into these pits so you can reach these guys and punch them in the face. Really fun game, and I recall you also have a level select. Volley Fire was this 1v1 shooter where you try to hit the other guy while using asteroids to protect you and him. It was weird looking up this game because it did not pop up in any site or Google result. It's really obscure and it only released in Japan, if I recall correctly. Although Volley Fire, I did find its name on a forum, and that's how I knew about its name. Now, several months later, when my older sister gifted me a copy of Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. That was my first ever proper Game Boy Advance game. I had so much fun with it, and it introduced me to Kirby as a series. It was unique. The gameplay was awesome, and I recall all these really cool environments you can be in and just different types of enemies and abilities. It was really amazing to me at the time, seeing a game fully fleshed out like that. I played the game for months on end without rest. Now, sometime after, my family moved to a new house. My dad got a PC built running on Windows XP, and with that, I was introduced to the world of emulation. I don't remember who installed it, probably my dad or my older sister, but it was an emulator called Visual Boy Advance, or VBA for short, and there was only one game on it, a game that would introduce me to a series that would define most of my childhood. Pokemon Silver. I recall choosing Cyndaquil as my starter, and that was when my first ever Pokemon journey started. Now, I could only use the PC at night after school, but man, I remember we had this really warm lamp right next to the PC and air conditioning. So imagine finishing your homework, eating your dinner, and going to the PC room, booting it up with the warm orange light right next to it, speakers on, and a very cool room. I had a blanket I would wrap over myself while playing, and I remember loading up the game on VBA and just hearing that star turn into the Game Freak logo. I could never skip the intro. It was just too good, and the title screen too, on blast from the speakers. It's probably the peak of my gaming life right there, where you had no worries and all you had was yourself and being lost in this new world that was opened up to you. I was lost in that world, the monotony of the real world just disappearing before you. Right now, thinking about it, I really miss those days. I recall only ever getting as far as Ekritik City during my playthrough, and after that I don't ever recall finishing the game, but every moment playing it was extremely worth it, and it made little Kyo the happiest kid out there. It made me not skip a Pokemon game afterwards, and I played every single one out there. Even the side games, save for a few. Only mainline entries of Pokemon that I didn't play were Sun and Moon, and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I did not like the direction Pokemon was heading at the time of those games' releases, and the last good games for me were Black and White 2. But then PlayStation happened. Right around my 7th birthday, my dad had been hiding something from me. It was a PlayStation 1. From what my mom told me, my dad bought it for me on the exact day I was born and waited 7 years to give it to me. He's been collecting games for it ever since. I don't know why he did it and why he waited this long, but all I can tell is that this is what properly got me into full-time gaming. My dad works as a driving instructor, so he immediately wanted to play Gran Turismo with me. I had him do the license test because I was horrible with that. But we played that a ton. And my mom also played some games with me, believe it or not. There was this game me and my mom had a name for, and we called it Metal Man. It was Raiden, and we called it Metal Man because when I was younger, all I wanted to do was collect the metal scattered across the field. My older sister introduced me to RPGs, mainly Wild Arms and the Final Fantasy IV PS1 port. I was also introduced, thanks to her, to horror games. My first ever horror game on the PS1 was Silent Hill, and I quit immediately after the intro because that scared the living shit out of me. Then another was the first Resident Evil, which I unplugged the PS1 after seeing the cutscene where the zombie turns around to stare at you. I think I ran out of my room screaming. But my favorite PS1 game belongs to Tekken 3. I mained Warang and just spammed X, but it was a lot of fun and made me become a fan of the series. After that, it was just a snowball of games left and right. I remember each console and handheld I owned after that. Let's see, Polystation, my Indigo Game Boy Advance, my PlayStation 1, my Blue Game Boy Advance SP, my Slim PlayStation 2, my Blue PSP 2000, my Red Nintendo DS Lite, my Black Nintendo DSi, my Black PlayStation 3 Slim, my OLED PS Vita 1000, my Light Blue PS Vita Slim, my Black New 3DS XL, my CUH 1200 PS4, my launch day Neon Nintendo Switch, a PS4 Slim, and a PS4 Pro. Yes, I owned 3 PS4s. Probably the worst financial decision of my life, but no regrets. And that's about it. I sold most of my stuff already to pay to support myself living alone, and I regret that. But I still have some of those left, like my original PS1, PS2, PS3 Slim, and PS4 Pro. I still have my DSi and 3DS XL, my OLED PS Vita, and my Nintendo Switch. I do regret not having any of my Game Boys anymore, but I decided to donate it to an orphanage when me and my family were doing a cleanup of the house to give away to an orphanage, so I hope my Game Boy was able to provide some kid out there a way to run away from the real world. The same feeling I had when booting up Pokemon Silver for the first time. I have so many stories to tell, from my journey through every single Pokemon game, joining the regionals for the Pokemon Video Game Championships, my first introduction to Taiko no Tatsujin, which led to my love of rhythm games and also my PC gaming journey, from forcing my old PC to run games by modifying config files, to now, where I have a PC capable of playing anything I want. But I'll save those stories for another day. Looking back, gaming was such a magical thing to me. It was a way to distract myself from the real world, from my troubles growing up as a half, living in a xenophobic Kyoto, and just enjoying games for what they are. Nowadays it's sad. Because I have access to almost all the games in the world, I have all the free time in the world. Yet, no game out there have ever made me feel the same way I did as a kid. Maybe I'll chalk it up to growing old and burning out. Maybe I'm just stressed out much more than I used to be. But regardless, I still have fun playing games. And ever since I started VTubing, I've been playing games I normally wouldn't, opening myself up to different varieties, and so far, it's been working out really well. Sure, there are times where I feel like I just want to lie down in bed and watch YouTube all day, but every time I hold a controller, I get reminded of, simple times. Times where I would just be transported into a world free of worries. I don't think I'll ever stop playing games, regardless of how old I get. It has been a part of my life for as long as I remember, and I'm always looking forward to what's in store for us in the future. Young me would have been ecstatic seeing where I am today, and if I could tell him one thing, it'd be to never stop playing. I don't have to play alone. I can't play with my sisters or my parents anymore, but I can still play with my friends, and hopefully look back at this with the same fondness that I do looking back at my childhood. Again, my name is Kyoshi Akazora. I push plastic buttons and stare at a screen all day, and it's nice to meet you. I'll see you soon.